Hey, what's up, everyone? It's the Ballpark Nomad. Welcome to episode 2 of The Chase, podcast talking on all things ballpark. So, in this episode, we are going to be talking about a day in the life of the Ballpark Nomad. So, basically, what I do when I plan trips and visit these ballparks. So, just to kind of break down some of the things we're going to be looking at. First thing we're going to talk about is how I plan my trips, from researching the ballpark and surrounding areas to where I'm going to stay, what to see, how am I getting around, and then developing an itinerary and a cost analysis. I'm going to share a little spreadsheet that I made with you all to making reservations and ticket purchases. From there, we'll talk about how I come up with my content before, during, and after the game. And then finally, we'll look at the editing process and what all goes into that. So ultimately, I have 4 chases going on right now. Like most of you, I'm chasing 30, chasing all 30 ballparks. I'm also chasing the Mets. So I've probably mentioned many times, either through here or on my Facebook page, that I am a Mets fan. So I am attempting to see them at all the ballparks as well. And then doing this content for my YouTube channel, I, of course, am trying to put out content on all 30 ballparks. So I'm, of course, trying to go there as well and do content at all 30 ballparks. And then finally, trying to take a tour of every ballpark that offers them. What I mean by that? Well, in case you weren't aware, there are a couple teams that don't offer tours. The Orioles at Camden Yards, that stopped around 2020 when COVID was relevant. They haven't done them since, from my understanding. And then Rate Field, Chicago White Sox, also they don't offer a ballpark tour, but I'm pretty sure all other 28 teams do. So you may ask, why not just combine all your chases together? Well, I'm going to kind of break it down as to why I don't do that and what my process is there. Before we get into the planning phase, I mentioned to you about a spreadsheet, so I'm going to put it up here on the screen. So give me a second here and kind of show you what I came up with. Now, I can't take full credit for this. This first page I'm going to put up here, I actually got the idea from a fellow chaser. However, I took it a bit further. I am a big spreadsheet nerd, so this was kind of my little project, and now I'm going to be able to use this year after year. If you're interested in this, I'll gladly share it with you. Just comment below, and I'll reach out to you and send it to you. But this is the main page. So this page shows every team, all their games, and how it's laid out is far left column, obviously, are the days and the dates. Across the top, you see all the home teams. So that's right underneath where it says MLB Home Schedule 2026. That's all the home teams. And then below that, in each column, are the visiting teams and the times of the games, all color-coded by team colors. And this just kind of gives me a good idea if I know there's a particular weekend or time of the month that I know I have free and I want to go visit a ballpark, I could quickly just jump on here and take a look at it. So my next page I'm going to show you here is kind of the overall all-encompassing season spreadsheet. So let's start at the top left corner here. That's showing the ballparks that I plan on visiting for content. So put out my long-form content for my YouTube channel. Next column over are the new ballpark visits. So ballparks I've never been to. This will be a first time visiting those ones. Next one over is Mets on the road. Like I said, again, one of my chases is chasing the Mets. So these are the ballparks that I'm hoping to see the Mets play at this year. And then going across to the ballpark visits, just kind of a tally for myself, monthly tally. And then away teams not seen yet. So these are the teams that I've never seen play live. So I'm hoping to knock a couple of those off this year as well. And then ballpark tours, again, like I said, I try to see a tour at as many ballparks as I can. So that's that little checklist. And then finally, just keeping track of how many Mets home games I've been to for the season. And then looking at the main body of the spreadsheet, you can see, again, left to right, you got your dates of my travel, number of games I plan on seeing, the ballpark, the teams, and then finally why I'm going. Is this just to see the Mets play? Is it a new ballpark visit? Am I there for content? And then the color, anything that's in green is pretty much, it's a definite trip. I've made reservations or bought tickets, something of that nature. The orange is kind of pending, or there's just a little bit more research I need to do on those trips. So that's that spreadsheet. So the next one we're going to look at is my cost analysis. So this one will actually break down in the planning stage for me, show me what I need to financially allot for each trip. So again, left to right, pretty self-explanatory. The date, the team, the teams playing, and the times of the games, how many games I'm going to, the ballpark, and then with a column called travel checklist. So each one have broken down into 4 categories: mode of travel, lodging, game tickets, and other attractions. And from there, there's a cost breakdown where each individual item is priced out, total cost, and then finally the far right column is basically if I'm going to still owe anything at the time of the trip. That'll kind of give me an idea of what I'm going to owe. As for the colors, well, again, green is things that have already been purchased and paid for. Anything in orange, which are primarily my lodging, a lot of times you'll see on there, is hotels or Airbnbs that I have reserved but I haven't paid for yet. So a lot of these will let you pay upon arrival. So that's what that is. And then finally, the yellow. If there's anything in yellow, those are things that I may be making payments on. So I've either paid a portion and still owe, or I'm making payments throughout the season or whatever. So that's my cost analysis. And finally, the last one I want to show you is my my detailed spreadsheet. So this one kind of is more for me to give me a timeline. Again, first couple columns are the same. You get into the light blue colored columns, and it's the date, the time, and then the details. So what am I doing? Is there a ballpark tour? What time did the gates open? What time do my flights arrive or my train arrives? Or, anything that involves keeping track of the time and what time I need to be somewhere is on this page. So again, this is just kind of for me to have a good itinerary going on. So again, if this is something that you'd be interested in, I'll gladly share it with you. Just comment below and I'll send it off to you. All right, so let's talk about the planning phase of a ballpark trip for me. So like most of us during the off season, once the schedules are released, I start planning, right? But even before that happens, I have an idea from the season before of what ballparks I want to visit, which ballparks I need to do content on, which new ballparks I want to visit, which ballparks I want to see the Mets play at. So everything kind of plays into that, right? And then deciding how many games I want to attend. So normally I try to go to at least 2 games at each new ballpark. If I'm there to record content, it's a must that I go to 2 games. So the process there is the first game, if I'm there recording content, is basically just walking around the ballpark for a majority of the time. I try to get there the minute the gates open, and I'm spending a majority of that game walking around just scouting out the ballpark, checking out the food options, the team store, any murals or statues or memorial plaques, anything specific to that ballpark or team, right? That I want to record the next day. I will sit in my seat and do some recording of the live gameplay. Also try to get around different sections if I'm able to, and get live game action from different vantage points. So if someone is looking to sit in different sections or whatever, they have a visual idea when they're watching the video. And then day 2 is when I do most of my actual recording. I'll walk around based on my notes and do my recordings then. So you're probably thinking, well, you're not going to see a whole lot of the game. Well, this goes back to what I mentioned a little bit earlier. This is why I don't combine a lot of my chases. I keep my Mets visits separate because if the Mets are playing, of course, I want to watch the game. But if I'm there to do content, I plan it based on not wanting really to watch a whole lot of the game, even though I love baseball. But I'm there to do content, right? So I don't want to be vested in the game, basically is what I'm saying. So I'll plan that like that so that if I'm missing some of the game, it's okay. And then obviously if I'm there to see the Mets play, definitely 1 game. I try to go to 2 games, especially if it's a new ballpark, just because, I enjoy, just being at the ballpark, trying the food, talking to the people. And so 2 games is good for me for that, right? And then once I have all of that pretty much figured out in my head. Um, and they start releasing dates and times, then I could take it a step further and actually cement down, okay, I'm going to go to this ballpark on these dates. And once I have the times, I could start planning further, right? Because it's kind of hard to make transportation arrangements and stuff if you don't have the times. But then once that's taken care of, I will actually, even before the tickets go on sale, when I know what ballpark I want to go to and what days I want to go, I will at least pull up the 3D map or the seating chart or whatever and get ideas of where I want to sit. And that makes it easier. I'll actually write them down. I'll even pick a specific section, row, and a couple seat options so that when the tickets do go on sale, I kind of have a running log of where I would like to sit. When I go to these games, I try to sit in two different sections for the games. So first off, anytime I go to a new ballpark, the first game I go to, I always sit behind home plate as high up as possible. I think that gives the best vantage point of the entire ballpark, especially if you're somewhere like PNC Park with the city skyline or Oracle Park with the bay behind the ballpark. The higher you sit, you can take all of that in, right? So that's day one. Day two, I'll try to sit way far down one of the baselines or in the outfield just to get a different vantage point. But then again, like I said, I am moving around quite a bit if I'm doing there for content. But then I have all that information, like I said, ready to go for when tickets actually do go on sale. Then from there, I start looking at where I'm going to stay. I'll stay at either a hotel or an Airbnb, whatever I could find, whatever's best price. A lot of times I can get an Airbnb for half the price of a hotel, especially in some of the bigger cities. So I'll do a lot of research into that. If I stay in a hotel, I always stay in one chain so that I could build points up for my stays. If it's an Airbnb, I will just try to find one relatively close to the ballpark or maybe close to public transportation. And like I mentioned earlier, a lot of these Airbnbs will let you either put half down and then half about a week or two before your stay, or some will even let you reserve and then pay when it gets a little bit closer. So you got a lot of options there. Once I have my lodging secured, now I'm going to decide how am I going to get there. And there's a lot of factors that go into this. First of all, how far of a drive is the ballpark from where I live? Normally for me, 5 or 6 hours is about my threshold, but that also, what else plays into that is how many games am I going to? If I'm going to one game and it's a 5-hour drive, I'm probably not going to drive 5 hours, go to a game and drive home. If I'm spending at least one night, then that's definitely doable. For instance, New York City from where I live is about 5.5 hours. So if I'm going to a Mets game or I'm going to Yankee Stadium, I'm not going to drive out for one game and come home same day. I'll stay overnight. But I also got to take into consideration if I'm going to fly. I really don't live next to a major airport, so it's 90 minutes for me to the closest airport. And then having to be there 2 hours early, that all weighs into it as well, right? But it's definitely the actual flight is shorter than the drive. Then you look at cities like Baltimore, DC. I'm about 3.5 hours from there. So that's, in my mind, Cleveland is another one. I'm 3 hours from Cleveland. So that could definitely be a doable drive, for one game. Another option that I've been looking at, and I actually have some plans to do this season, is taking Amtrak. Depending on where you live and where you're going, Amtrak may be a great option. A lot of times a lot cheaper than flying. Now, obviously, getting there time-wise is going to be longer. For instance, again, New York, from where I would pick the train up, it's about a 5 or 6 hour train ride, which is about the same as a drive. Just I'm not driving, but it's much cheaper than flying. So that's another factor we could look at as well. And then finally, once tickets go on sale, I purchased the tickets. Now that also has some factors involved too. If it's a game where I think it's going to sell out, so let's say maybe it's an opening day game, a home opener somewhere, I will buy those tickets as soon as they go on sale. If it's a ballpark, a team that I don't think that game's going to sell out right away, or maybe not at all, I'll probably wait till it gets a little bit closer to the game and try some of these third-party ticketing apps. I've had a lot of success with those, getting cheaper tickets closer to the date of the game. So that's definitely an option as well. And then the last thing I look at to complete my trip, I try to find any ballpark attractions. So what do I mean by that? Are there any museums, halls of fame, historical markers, statues, anything related to the team or the city's history of baseball? I will do research on that and visit that, record it. That's all, a big interest of mine. One of the great resources that's out there, if you haven't discovered this yet, it's called the Historical Marker Database, and I'll put a link down below. You go on there, you go in a search box, you type in a team, a stadium, a ballpark, a player, and if there's any historical markers or anything, a plaque about them, maybe where a ballpark used to stand, it'll be listed on there. And it's cool because a lot of times there's pictures and a physical street address, and they'll even give you more specific details as to where it is in relation to maybe a fountain or another building or whatever. So great resource. Like I said, I'll put that link down below. Talked about tours, right? Trying to take a tour at all the ballparks that offer them. So, tours are a great resource, not only just for my love of history, but doing content for these ballparks. I've learned so much about these ballparks through the tours. And there's a lot of times I'll put up a fact on my Facebook page about a ballpark, and lifelong season ticket holder fans of that team will be like, oh, that's cool. I never even knew that. Well, that was information that I learned on the tour. And it's amazing how many people who are lifelong fans, maybe season ticket holders, may have never been on a ballpark tour at their home ballpark. So it's a great resource. For me, I definitely prefer non-game day tours over game day tours, primarily because you get to see more. If the team's not there, you may have a better chance to get into the clubhouse, the dugout, the field, stuff like that. The tours are sometimes a little bit longer and more in depth. And so for me, if I can fit it in, and I'll base it on the schedule. So if I know I'm going there to record content and I want to do a non-game day tour, I'll make sure I arrive either the day before or the day after a series if that team has an off day. And the off season is a great time to do these tours too. A lot of teams offer tours year round. I know in November of this past year, I did a in-depth tour at Citi Field and Yankee Stadium in the same week. So a great way to kind of scratch that baseball itch, right? In the off season. And that's when I hit a lot of my ballpark attractions too, like halls of fame and stuff like that. But, yeah, the other thing to think about though is, and I found this out with football stadiums, cause I love going to those too, is, construction is a big thing. They do a lot of the construction and remodeling and stuff in the off season, so that may alter your tour. But if there's other events going on the field itself, so for me, I toured AT&T Stadium in Dallas when I was in Dallas last May, and never even thinking that the football stadium is a multi-use facility. So when I was there, the turf wasn't down. They were setting up for a concert. So it kind of changes the appeal, but it was still pretty cool. But I toured Oracle Park back in February. You may have seen some of my footage from that. And it was Super Bowl weekend. And obviously the San Francisco area hosted the Super Bowl. And they actually had a giant tent set up in the outfield of Oracle Park because they were having a special VIP concert there that night. So again, all this you got to take into consideration, especially during the off season. So once the planning is done, as the ballpark visit approaches, I start researching a little bit more, especially in our Facebook groups for ballpark chasing, for food suggestions, or I'll look at other fans' photos to give me an idea of like what's around the ballpark that I want to photograph, and I'll take all those notes down, and I'll also do go to Google Maps and Street View and basically do like a walk around the ballpark just to see statues and stuff like that, or what's around a ballpark that I may want to record and take pictures of. As I stated before, if I'm going to a new ballpark to record content, I always go to 2 games. I broke it down as to how I did that. First game, I'm just specifically scouting everything out. And what's nice too is if you could do the pregame, or if you could do the ballpark tour before the game, so maybe the day before, if it's an off day, you get to walk around that ballpark and see where everything's at, and that gives me a better idea of what to record and where I want to go. And then one rule that I do have when it comes to food at ballparks, or even just the cities alone, is I will always eat food that is known to that area. And that's one of the things that I look at on these ballpark groups is, what foods are, this particular ballpark known for, this city's known for, because that's what I want to experience. I will not eat your typical ballpark food, hot dogs, chicken strips, burgers, whatever. I want the food that's specific to that ballpark of that city. So I like to record that too and show chasers what their food options are. And sometimes I'll even record myself trying them and give my honest, I'm no food critic, but I love food. And I'll give you an honest opinion of what I think about it. And I'll tell you what it costs in the whole 9 yards. And so I try to make several attempts at eating different things over the couple games that I'm in town for. Another thing that I did mention earlier was I look for baseball-related attractions. And I will choose a time based on the games and, the other factors. I showed you that in-depth timeline spreadsheet that I have. So based on that, I'll decide, how far is this ballpark attraction from the stadium or from where I'm staying. And then depending on what I'm going to visit, if it's just a historical marker or a statue, I'll include that with my primary video, my long form video. But if it's something more in depth, like a museum that's got a lot of stuff to see, I will actually do a separate video on that. For instance, last year when I went to Progressive Field, spent a few days in Cleveland, I went to League Park and the Baseball Heritage Museum. And there was enough content there that I was able to do a separate video just on that. So I think that's a great way to let folks know what's out there. And that was a fantastic tour. If you've never been there, definitely visit at some point. So once all that's done and I'm home, the fun part begins, start the video editing. So on average, my long form content videos are anywhere from 25 to 40 minutes, depending on the ballpark, the area, what all I had to record. And so to record a 25 to 40 minute video takes anywhere from 8 to 10 hours of video editing, which takes me several days to do because I still have an adult job that I have to go to 5 days a week. And so I've learned to do as much of the audio content as I can while I'm recording. So if I'm, recording some of the food options, I'll actually be kind of narrating it then. Versus just taking photos and then doing the voiceover when I get home. That takes a lot more time. So that's the biggest part of it. Once the video is complete, I upload it to my YouTube channel as well as my Facebook page. And then I try to share it with some of the ballpark chasing groups on Facebook as well. So that's basically in a whole the process that I go through from planning in the off season, making all the reservations and purchases of the tickets and lodging and transportation and all that, to video editing and everything. So I hope this kind of gives you a glimpse into what I do when I go to these ballparks and to put out the content. So if there's anything you'd like to see in my videos, please comment below. If you haven't watched any of my videos, I ask that you go to my YouTube channel, Ballpark Nomad. I have a couple up there right now. I will be adding a lot more this season. I got a lot of trips planned. I got some long form content and some short form content. So take a peek, see what you think. Give me your honest opinion. That's, I'm putting this out here. I'm putting these videos out for fellow chasers to get information. So I need to know what you all want to see. And so please give me ideas. If you have ideas for a place to go, by all means, give me that information too. I'm always looking for new places. But I do ask, if you found this episode helpful, give it a like. If you haven't done so already, please click that subscribe button. That'll allow me to continue to do this and bring you this content. And that's all I got for today. So this is the Ballpark Nomad. Happy chasing.